Greetings, this is John Evans. Welcome to an audio podcast of Book and Spade. We are gathered on the Feast of Joseph. And as we think of Joseph, we should keep in mind that we are talking about a very real historical figure. We often fall into the great game of anachronistic churchianity, meaning we always can approach these figures in the Bible as effigies carved in stone or in stained glass, or as distant role models seen from afar by mystical sight. But in reality, we are speaking about a flesh and blood figure who endured incredible hardship and suffering, all because he believed. He believed. And what did Joseph believe? He realized early on, through the revelation of the angel in Matthew 1, that the woman he had come to love, the woman he was betrothed to, in Jewish law that would be a legal bind, essentially a legal marriage, though of course it was not consummated. He believed that this girl was and is the mother of Yahweh, the God of Israel, the God of all things. And he believed not only that she was the virgin mother of God, that it was his duty, his God-given role, to be the protector of the virgin mother of God, and to be the protector, the guardian of the infant Messiah, the infant Creator incarnate. That is an unfathomable truth. You know, it's often said that we don't have a single word recorded from Joseph in the Gospels. I disagree. We have 2 words that Joseph would have said every single day of his life. Jesus and Mary. Jesus and Mary. We also are told that Joseph was a carpenter. And this is true and false at the same time. It's true in the sense that, yes, he worked with wood. All the visionaries throughout Christianity confirm this, and this is something which fits very well into early iconography as well within the Christian era. But the term tekton used in the New Testament in Greek also applies to more than wood, but also to stone, perhaps even to metal. He's a day laborer, yes. He knows what it is to work with his hands, to fend for his family, to endure the heat of the day, to be considered among the lowest of the low. And yet, we often forget, at least I often do, that Joseph, according to his genealogy, is a descendant, a direct descendant of King David. Here is a man who deserves to be on a throne of gold. Here is a man who deserves to have servants, vast estates, applause, to be heralded with creaturely comforts. And yet Joseph lives his life in humility, working among the dust of the land. Traveling to Sepphoris, a village not far from Nazareth, presumably, to carry out trade with Romans and Greeks, those who are proselytes to Judaism, converts, talking to those inquiring, asking of this humble day laborer about his background and who his God is. Joseph would look on his God in a way that not even King David or Moses or Abraham or Elijah ever could. Joseph would look upon his God in the flesh, face to face. On the floor of a grotto in Bethlehem of Judea, in the city of David, dressed in swaddling clothes, he held love in his hands. He held life in his hands. Those calloused and cracked hands held God. One of the vast mysteries of the Old Testament is how Joseph, the son of Jacob, the patriarch, who had the 12 sons who had become the 12 tribes of Israel, how that Joseph was sold by his brothers into slavery because of jealousy and sent into Egypt. There was mocked, thrown into prison, accused falsely, and became vizier over all the land of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. And it was by the rejection of that Joseph, the son of Jacob, in Genesis, that led to the provision, the gathering of wheat to make bread in the land of Egypt, so that the house of Jacob could survive. In a similar way, this Joseph in the New Testament will flee into Egypt because he is hunted and rejected not by his biological brothers, but by his brothers according to the flesh, by the great monarch Herod, the tyrant, because of the promise that his foster son and Lord and God, Yeshua, Jesus, brings to all of creation. Because light has come into the world, but men prefer darkness to light, lest they should come to the light, and they should turn and be healed, lest their deeds should be known. And when you meditate upon Joseph's flight into Egypt, where can we find something salvific about this? As in the Old Testament, when Joseph, the son of Jacob, fled into Egypt, that Joseph maintained his faith and his identity, and he was able to provide bread for the people of Egypt until his brothers, the people of Israel, could come into the land and be saved from starvation, be saved from a famine. In the same way, this new Joseph of this new covenant travels into Egypt to be the foster father of the bread from heaven, of the new manna come down, to God who has become our feast, so that he would be preserved, so that both Jew and Gentile, so that both the seed of Abraham and the peoples of the nations could be united in the new sacrament of the altar, in the Eucharistic table. But we live in a time where the name of this Joseph, this new Joseph, is remembered largely among the Gentiles, among the peoples of the nations. In Italy, we hear Giuseppe. His effigy is seen in most Catholic and Orthodox churches. And yet there will come a time and it is perhaps not far off, when the people of Israel, who are coming to recognize Jesus as the Mashiach, as the Messiah, God incarnate, Elohim and Adonai, there will come a time when they also will recognize their spiritual brother, Joseph. And through them, perhaps we will see a greater evangelization. As the book of Revelation prophesies, all peoples, tribes, tongues, and every kingdom gathered together at the foot of the tabernacle and of the Lamb, particularly in Revelation 4 and 5 and 19 through 22. And here we see the family reunited at last. In Joseph, we see a man who bridges the divide between New Covenant and Old. He was perfectly observant to Torah. He was perfectly observant to Moses. He was perfectly observant to the promises, but he saw in his foster son, in the son of the virgin wife, he knew the fulfillment of the law and of the prophets, the fulfillment of all the promises that had been given through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This was precisely because, as we think fundamentally about the role of Joseph, we also comprehend a person who was deeply embedded in contemplative prayer. Contemplative prayer does not mean simply thinking or meditating upon the will of God. Contemplative prayer also means responding to the will of God. Joseph, when he heard the news that his wife was the Virgin Mother and is the Virgin Mother of God, did not wait. He acted to ensure that she would be protected. She could have been stoned in that culture. When Joseph heard that his foster son, Jesus, was going to be hunted down by evil intending monarchs such as Herod, he did not wait. He brought his foster son into the land of Egypt because though they were not united in flesh, they were united in love. Though they were not united in flesh, they were united in love. We, on the other hand, through the Eucharist, I speak here as a Catholic, are united to God both by love and by participating in the altar, in the chalice and in the host, in the flesh of God and in the blood of God. That is an intimacy that is beyond the tongue and nature of man. So as we come to the close of a year that has been vexed by great isolation, and as we come to the advent of a new year that is measured by possibilities for the breaking of bread and for fellowship, let us, like Joseph, draw near to Jesus. Let us, like Joseph, not abandon our post. Let us, like Joseph, not flee from our God-given responsibilities. Let us, as true contemplatives, respond to the will of God, so that we might act after having listened, so that we might speak with the names of Jesus and His Holy Mother upon the tables of our hearts. If we can do this, though we live at a time when we see the culture of death and the massacre of little ones institutionalized, we could also equally see our families and our churches spheres of light that shall outshine the darkness of this present time. Joseph is not merely, for Christians, an example of fatherhood. He is an example of what it is to be a disciple of the Word. And all men and women should, I believe, look at the virtues of this man and recognize in themselves a call to holiness that is unique and that is not often determined by the expectations that one brings to the altar. Joseph, I don't know, would have ever expected to become the foster father of God. I don't think Joseph ever planned on leaving Nazareth to go to Egypt, of all places. I don't think that Joseph ever planned on accompanying a wife who would remain always linked flesh of one flesh with Yahweh incarnate. And yet, though his expectations may or may not have been along those lines, he was taken on a vast journey that was strange and beautiful. We too are led on a journey that is strange and beautiful. My prayer this year of St. Joseph is that you, like him, will be called to bear witness to the presence of God in our midst, even when there is great difficulty, because God has not abandoned his children, and because God has a destiny for each and every one of us that is far greater than anything we ourselves could have imagined. May God bless you this beautiful feast day, and we hope to hear from all of you in the comments section soon. God bless.